Hi, I'm Daniel from Wiser Studios, and today I'll just be showing you the latest updates that will be going into the game as soon as possible, really. The first I'm going to show you is the new Steampunk Town that just sort of, as you can see, it's just got the basics of housing. This is all modular stuff, so I can build variants on this, although it does need a little bit of updating on things like the windows, since you can't see them from the inside, as it were, and they're not transparent, but that's going to be fixed soon. Yeah, there's basic, some animated cogs, some smoke effects, a little railway that I can build throughout the town, little train that runs on steam. It's just the basic little town. And yeah, some of these have got internal parts, as you can see here. So you can sort of walk in. Eventually you can climb up the ladders, but again, this is supposed to be a window, but because it's not double-sided, you can't see out of it and everything, so that's going to have to be fixed soon. And then I've got to decorate all these places inside eventually, but when I get the housing system in place, you can build your house any way you want, whether it be steampunk style, medieval, futuristic, or whatever, or a combination of each of them, or whatever. Like, I don't really mind. That's the whole point of this game, is to sort of build how you want, craft how you want, be good, be evil. It's not going to stop you either way. Okay, I'm going to go take to the next part and show you what I'm going to call the thief skills, but I'm not sure what to call them. Alright, we're right back. Hi, and we're back. This is the example scene for my new sort of, I'm going to call them thief skills, but it's not. It's basically lockpicking, safe cracking, electronic door hacking, bomb disposal, you know, generally things that you want to get into. So this is just a standard door opens up. Eventually they'll be implemented. This one is basically lockpicking, is like Skyrim. You get this, move the little pit, then sort of twiddle it. Once it's unlocked, it's done. So then you can start opening that. And then you got the difficulty doors, so this one's way more sensitive. And your pin health goes down really fast. So this is kind of Skyrim, Fallout, depending on what you played. I mean, some of these are still pretty tough, but and then you got the ones that can't be opened no matter what. Chests, which again are just basic, find the hole, move, and actually we'll do the doors. And then you've got the lock panels, which are the electronic ones, which is basically you must put all of these blue pins in the red holes, and no wires can cross. So for example, this one goes here, 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 and here, and it works and it opens up like that. So it's basically just bypassing the door using electronic methods. Then you've got the safe cracking, which I'll be quiet for, but basically you move the stethoscope around and you listen for the clicks as you rotate the dial. I'll be quiet now. So as you saw, once you rotate it left or right, depending on whatever, when you hear a click, you then start rotating it the other direction because you know you've got that pin right. Now, that was pretty easy because that was an easy save. And then you've got the hard save, which is you have to search generally for a long time because it's random positions. So I'll just show you here. When you hear a louder, like a sort of a click, but it's not a good sounding click. That just means you've found a pin, but it's the wrong side. So you've got to rotate the other direction until you hit the good pins, and eventually it will open. But as you can hear, there's no clicking sounds. And as you hear from, as I get over this area you can hear it, but over here you can't. So you basically just have to work out which area it's in and then sort of fine tune it. And then obviously once they're open in the actual game, they'll give you some sort of item or something that was inside of it. And then you've also got the last thing, which is bomb defusal. You've got, now these are completely random, even I get these wrong a lot. So you get a certain time, which is whatever in the actual game. If your mission is to go defuse the bomb on a building before time runs out, these will actually blow up. Now these have 3 methods to blow up: running out of time, shaking these too hard, which I'll show you in a minute, and cutting the wrong wire. Now there's 3 types of wire. There's the good wires, which do nothing. There's the timer wires, which increase the speed of the timer, and then there's the bad wires, which you don't want to cut because otherwise they explode. Completely all random. So that was a good wire and I somehow passed. So we'll move on to a harder one, which I'll show. This one I'm going to try and purposely explode it by moving it too fast. As you hear, it bleeps every time you move it. So move it too fast or too rough and it explodes. So that would have you pretty much dead or injured or something. Now let's do the hard one, because which is more sensitive, and also if you cut the wrong wires there's more chance of failing and you've got less time. Unfortunately some of these wires are a bit buggy, so that's the wrong one, so it exploded. Right, well so that's kind of all of the basic things we've got at the moment. Obviously there's difficulties increasing on the panels. You've got the door difficulties, safe difficulties. There's not much difference at the moment, but it just, you know, it's more sensitive at the second. And I'll show you the flight simulator that I hope to add in eventually, because it will be in soon, but the problem is it's a realistic flight simulator, so we need a flat airport, as it were, to fly off of. Be right back. Okay, and I'm back. This is the flight simulator part of the next few editions, as it were. It's just basic. It's based on realistic aerofoils and other airplane stuff. It was developed using pilots and things, so it's been fully sort of tested by pilots. Like, it's realistic enough. And as you can see, you can turn all the little fins independently. And at the moment I'm using a controller just because it's easier. Ignition is one of these buttons. Camera change. There we go. It was square. Alright, because it's Xbox, it's X. So there you got the ignition. You can obviously move the back paddle to go sideways, but you want to be doing straight takeoff, so. And you slowly take off. So turn. Now, because this is based off of realistic wing physics and everything, you probably do want to get up quite high, because the turning circles on these things are huge, like a plane. You have to sort of keep balance everything. Do slow, long turning circles like actual planes do. But this is because this is of a big passenger plane rather than, well, not big, but sort of long. But as you can see, you have to sort of do this. You can move your landing gear up and down, and you've got your different views, so you can see it from the cockpit and outside. Yeah, it's the thing we want to come back for landing. You want the landing wheels down. You basically slow your ignition down to nothing. Slow down. Imagine there's a runway in front of you, obviously, but then you have to sort of. There we go, and then you can use your back one to just sort of make minor changes with the landing gear. Ooh, it almost went over. And again, you can't sort of do it too hard or too sharply while going too fast, or else you're going to crash. Now, the game doesn't have any sort of crash physics or anything, so you're not going to explode or anything, but eventually that will be put in. Like, you can have engines drop off, you can have your wings ripped off, but that's not until later. As you can see, we're pretty much going down to a small speed now. So this is just where the sort of pilot's going into the runway and just sort of parking the plane. And then if you drop your thing, you do actually fall, so you need your sort of landing gear on if you don't want to just crash and burn. Okay, and I think that's everything. I'll check, but I'll be right back. Okay, and I'm back. The only newish thing is the weather system has now been re-updated. Now it has got access to snow again, which is good. I can't remember if this snow actually builds up on the buildings and things. There's only one way to find out, but it's also had a massive update, so it now has regularish temperature fluctuations. So instead of going from 5 one day to 20 the next, it actually has sort of a dip. Like, so it goes from 5 in the morning, then it sort of heats up during the afternoon, so maybe it's got to sort of to 6 or 7, and then during night it goes down again, and then during sort of, and then it increases more during summer and goes down worse in winters and things like that. And I've just added the scroller bar so we can see, hopefully. And I will change it in a second so I can show off the new horizon. Because, yeah, I'll put it down to sunny. 1 second. Okay, back. I've changed it back to sunny, so now it should look fine. Okay, enable bar. So as you can see, during different types of the day, the sky actually changes colour. So this is night, so it's a nice black, and you can see the stars actually slightly rotating a bit as the planet rotates. Although that's just a trick, but you know, we'll just go with it. Sun coming. Oh wait, wrong. We're looking at the wrong side for sun. Okay, we'll go to sundown then. As you can see, even during sort of the early mornings, you can still see the stars a little bit. So the sky turns sort of a lighter blue during midnight, and then at night it starts going sort of orangish colour, more orangey, sort of sundown orange, black. So if I just do it from there, as you can see, it's now a more responsive sky. So instead of going blue and then it's constantly blue and then it's suddenly sort of black and then stars sort of thing, it's now sort of a nice sort of gradient that goes through light, dark, and the clouds reflect the colours. There's horizons. I'll just try and change the colour angle so you can try and see sunrise as well. 1 second. Okay, this is now sunrise. looks like I might have got a foggy day rather than a clear one, but oh well. As you can see, as it starts, as you see in the distance, as it's just sort of, I'd say it's about 10 o'clock-ish on the game time. So you can see that there's still sort of the morning rise orange as it goes down. It's more orange, and that way you can actually have a nice sort of mix where you can see the stars and the moons and the sun and everything at the same time. Then during winter it will be slightly more obvious and all these other little good things. There's also timed events which I will show in a minute, where it's pretty much, if you've played Skyrim or Fallout or any of them sort of games, you know what I mean. So it's at 10 o'clock, player 8 NPC is here, at 11 o'clock they're working, 12 o'clock they're still working, 1 o'clock they go for a lunch break, etc. And this will help make the game a bit more realistic, so we can have events where if let's say it's May the 5th and it's breeding season for beetles or something, then we can actually say on May the 5th, between these hours, there's a huge swarm of beetles at this area, and at night time the spiders come out of the caves and players walk to home, and if it's raining the players just stay at home and have a day off, as it were. Or if it's the big cities, then, you know, they walk through the rain with umbrellas, you know, things like that. Because at the moment this is just sort of a small town with maybe 10-20 people. They're all doing their work, they don't have to worry about if they have a day off, it's not going to cause major problems. Whereas if you're in a big city area in the game, you could be, you know, it's like real life. You're in a town and just doing farmer stuff, you can have a day off and it's not going to affect your work because plants grow on their own. Okay, so I think I'll leave that there, and if I can find an example of the sort of time management I will, but if not, bye. Okay, back. I couldn't find an example of a time one, so I've just done a weather one instead. Basically a weather one is where you walk into an area and it changes the weather. So in this case it's cloudy-ish, but you know, it's nothing too bad. And then you see a suspicious looking train or an evil castle or something, and then you walk towards it and it activates the weather, which in this case is thunderstorm. You can hear the rain starting to go off, there'll be some lightning soon. Oh yeah. That with some texture that you see there is a lightning bolt, but I need to check that for a second because it's not supposed to be textures. Yeah, as you can see, this would be good for having sort of evil glare that when they get in the area starts having sort of lightning bolt thunderstorms in the area. And as you can see, there is wind, so the trees will shake and pulse everything else like they would normally. Yeah, that's kind of it. Some other plans I want to add in is destructible environments. I'll just stop the game for a second. Okay, as I was saying before, the thunderstorm sort of cut me off. Basically, things I want to add in is destructible environments. So when the bombs explode, they actually do damage to the buildings, and you can sort of destroy people's buildings, and you have to sort of worry about, will this thing collapse? So as you're building your house, you can't do, you know, tiny little base structure on sand and then just add on a ton of heavy things above it, sort of thing, because otherwise you take out that bottom soft area and you're kind of doomed yourself. And so it's kind of like Red Faction, I think it's Armageddon, might have been a newer one, but yeah, it's basically a case of you can go around destroying your stuff. I want spreadable fire to be added, which basically means if you've got a weapon like a flamethrower, and you then start burning down trees or wooden buildings, it will spread. So you kind of have to be careful with flames and things like that, since it might also be like explosive gases. So when you're exploring the caves, you might see some sort of, liquid. You light it, it's actually oil. It spreads the fire. You can make some nice little light traps like that. And the gas, obviously, if you explode it, it'll cause caves-ins and things like that. Another thing I want to add in is, the new transport systems, which is going to be railway, which is going to be not the sort where you just stand in it, pay, let's say, 10 copper, and it teleports you to the other side. I want it to be sort of an actual train that has its own schedules and things like that. So so at this time of day it'll be at this port and this one and this one, and you can just sit inside the car and just basically enjoy the scenery as you sit there, flying around the world. For all I mean, if you really want to do that, it's up to you. There'll be airplanes, which means you can both fly them, just sit there. Players can fly you around, and you've got all the sorts of transports. Eventually, when I get some more spacey stuff and make it sort of blend in better, there'll be space transports for going between planets and things like that. Then there's the obvious ones of land-based ones, which is sort of cars, motorbikes, hoverbikes, horses, tigers, generally any sort of mounts you can think of in all ages. So it can be a basic medieval sort of thing, which is like horses, donkeys, other animals that can transport you. Then you got the steampunky stuff, which is like the golems, the sort of cars, the bikes, things like that. And then you've got the sort of more modern stuff, which is, modern day cars, trucks, lorries, hoverbikes, things like that. And then you've got the sci-fi stuff, which is not going to be for a while, but there may be the occasional bit that's added in, just sort of as lost technology type stuff. And that's going to be sort of the high-end hoverbikes, not the sort of prototype type hoverbikes. Spaceships, things like that. That's the transport systems. And then there's, transports. Oh yeah, there's obviously going to be more cities and items being added in, like the weaponry. But I also plan to add in more skills, as it were, which like fishing and other player interaction stuff, like trading, and maybe some sort of pet combat system as well as the normal one, so you can sort of, if you really wanted to, go to a dimension that's similar to Pokemon, where you go around capturing as many pets as you want and battle them and trade them and all the other sort of things, because I can get away with it, because it's alternate dimensions and things like that. Although obviously it's not going to be Pokemon, but it's going to be sort of the basic concept of Pokemon. And yeah, basically this is going to be aiming to be a game for anybody who wants to play a game. There'll hopefully be something for you here, whether that's just sort of looking at the scenery and just sort of watching the wildlife, collecting bugs and other items, finding buried treasure, exploring tombs, beating dragons with your fists, parkouring through the cities, like with Mirror's Edge or something like that. Or just exploring and questing, and basically, even if you just want to just build a house, have a farm, just keep away from as many people as possible, sort of thing. That's fine too. There's eventually going to be the housing system with a farming system, so you can sort of, and I want your house to be is whatever you want. So let's say you're more into crafting weaponry, so you might have your house as with a mine, so you can get your ores and that from that. Although that's not going to be a guaranteed, it's going to have this ore, this ore, and this ore. Each house will have a randomly generated, like, ore areas. And, or if you want herbs, you may want to turn some of your housing area into like a foresty area, where you just let nature do whatever the hell they want, and it will grow herbs and plants and stuff on it naturally. And then you can sort of cultivate them in plant tubs and farmlands type thing. Or you can just use it as sort of a trade station where you can buy resources off the market from other players or the things, and then build it into something and then sell it back onto the market as your finished product. Or eventually there'll be, for the business people, there'll be stocks, and basically you can say you want to put your money into, let's say, sugar. So sort of you buy it, make sure to buy it at this price and sell off at that price. Or you can say, I'm going to invest 10,000 copper in, let's say, Dwarven Mining Corporation A, and then they make some massive profit, you get your money, some of your money back. Again, it's all rough ideas at the moment, but I hope to add them in as soon as possible. And yeah, you can hopefully get the idea now that it is aiming to be sort of something that every single player can do, no matter what they're into. If we don't have it in the game, just get in contact and we'll try and put it in the game. So let's say we get a complaint saying we need some more resources then of this type, then we'd consider it. If we think that's fair in point, we'll put some more in. Eventually there's also going to be, with the modern and the futuristic stuff, which I haven't put in yet, but it will eventually be in, there'll be building robots. So at the moment you can just make some steampunk robots that will eventually be in. But then you'll get the more modern ones, like in Robot Wars and things like that, where you can go around chopping up other robots with that. Or you get the sci-fi stuff, which is the big mecha robots like Gundam and all those other Power Rangers and all those other things. Okay, thanks for listening, and bye for now. And I hope to add in all of this stuff as soon as possible.